What's going on, everybody? My name is Hangos. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be discussing this. This is the Helios 44M. You've probably seen it floating around. This is a lens that's highly recommended by everybody. And after 3 years of using it, I feel like it can finally give a decent review. 3 years, that's a heck of a lot of time, especially in internet time. Let's get started with the build quality of this lens. The build quality is heavy. This lens looks tiny, but it's mighty. It's a nice heavy metal along with a nice and smooth outer ring. That was probably one of the most impressive things that I've realized through the years, how it's built like a tank. The ring feels nice and smooth, but it comes with a little asterisk, which is the ricocheting. What do I mean by ricocheting? When I'm pulling the lens and I'm trying to get it to infinity, sometimes it kind of ricochets a little bit and it stutters. I especially found this when I was photographing individuals, like a portrait, and I thought that I had gotten the photo in focus. However, when I went into editing, I saw that the eyes were not in focus. This is a big problem, especially in portraiture, where I especially found this lens to be really cool and unique, and clients saw that it was different. You're gonna get a lot of ricocheting, so you constantly have to be shooting multiple shots with it. So that's for photo, right? It's easy to tell your subject just to stay there and you take multiple shots. I would highly suggest moving it just slightly back and forth to make sure that you get your subject in focus. Video though is a different story, where you're allowed to take multiple takes and there's not too much movement. This lens is extremely difficult to focus, especially on DSLR systems where the LCD is a little bit dim and you don't have any of the fancy, focus peaking and zebras. I found that before I bought an external monitor, a lot of the shots that I would take would be out of focus. I would see them on a bigger screen and I would be a little bit mad at myself, but that's kind of the problem that you run into. So having an external monitor with a DSLR is a much better option. In the tracking shots though, that's even more difficult to nail the focus, especially if you want the nice swirly effect. Take a shot every time I say swirly in this video. It's difficult, especially if you're a one-man band. Let's say you have a glide cam or anything along those lines. You're gonna hunt for the focus a lot. If you were to put a focusing system on here, I think you're still going to run into the problem with the ricocheting because the computer doesn't know that it's going to be ricocheting back. So someone that's highly skilled in focus pulling is going to nail the focus, but just know that it's going to be difficult. So that's just for photo and video. When I moved it into post, I realized two very important things: how flat this lens is. I think it captures colors in an absolutely unique way, but if you're shooting with, let's say, the same lens, the same settings, you put a different lens on first and then you put this one on and you bring it into post, you realize that you have to edit in two different ways in order to color match. Am I saying that color matching is impossible with this lens? No, but just know that it's gonna take a little bit more time to sort of get the exact same look. That's why I try not to shoot with it so much, because that's just consumption time and the effect can get very boring. I noticed that it's so flat that I constantly had to push the dehaze in order to get the flat effect going away. It's not necessarily bad, it's just another step, and that's how I personally edit as well. The cool thing though is when you're in Photoshop and there's something in the background and it's really small, the swirly effect really allows you to cover up that mistake. I'm not saying make 1,000 little mistakes and it's going to be able to solve like a giant whale in the back or a giant elephant in the back, but just to know, like, look at this photo. There's a giant hose in the back, right? But after a little Photoshop and a little tweaking, nobody will notice that there was a hose in the background. That's because of the effect the lens gives you. If I were to shoot this on my regular lens, like my 35mm, then I could have been able to clearly see that there was some Photoshop done because it's just flat. The swirliness allows you to make mistakes in a better margin of error. The style that I always go for, and I think the best results that you're gonna get, is not when you're just kind of shooting behind a blank wall. You want your subjects to be sort of covered. I usually like to put a lot of plants and flowers in my photos, so I try to really put the subject in the middle, make it feel like the surrounding area is hugging them, and shoot dead center. Fortunately, with this lens, composition has to die out. The best way that I got the results was shooting dead center all the time. Dead center, dead center. I rarely use the rule of thirds. That's because the outer corners are very soft, which makes it look out of focus. And if your photo is already out of focus, that's just a missed shot. I wouldn't suggest shooting any other way, to be honest, because the best results always comes by shooting dead center. Who do I recommend the lens to at the end? I still shoot with a DSLR, right? I don't have focus peaking, I don't have 4K, I don't have a very bright LCD screen. It's a very old technology, right? And I find that a lot of times I'm gonna be looking for the focus, telling, the client or the subject, stay still, stay still. It's really obnoxious. That's why I personally only use it on very small occasions, and I try to be as fast as possible with the lens so that subject doesn't get bored. If you have a DSLR, I wouldn't suggest buying this lens. I already owned it and had it, and that's why I shot with it on the DSLR. But if you're a mirrorless user, you got focus peaking and a nice LCD and just everything that comes along with the mirrorless system, it's a lot smaller and it'll feel very well balanced on like an R5, then this is a lens that I would suggest to you. For photographers, I would say pick this up, especially with the mirrorless system. For videographers, I just say like be aware of that little ricochet that it gives you, because the shot might look amazing, the panning might look great, and you think you nailed it, and then you go into post and it's out of focus because it ricochets. So that's the most annoying aspect of the lens that I found myself through the years, and I still make the mistake to this day. Like, I got the photo in focus. No, it's like, no, you didn't. It's completely out of focus. The eyes, it really bugs me when the eyes are out of focus. But that's it. Really cool lens, inexpensive. If you didn't know, this is a replica of a Carl Zeiss lens, and they made so many that everybody on planet Earth can have one for the rest of their lives. So that's it for right now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know that I said that I might not post weekly anymore. Make sure to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and if you're into blockchain or anything crypto related, please make sure to upvote me on the Foundation app, as it would be a huge help as your boy is trying to sell some NFTs. At the end of the day, I thank you so much for your time and your attention. My name is Isaac Mihangos, and I'll catch you in the next one.